Am I the asshole for cutting off my mother when she got a paternity test for my daughter? I've been with my wife for 8 years. We have 2 children, a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. I've known since my wife got pregnant that there was a possibility our daughter wasn't my biological child. I don't care. She's my daughter and my wife has never been unfaithful. However, I don't want to know if she is or she isn't biologically related to me, and I've never wanted to know. Edit to include the full story as people are assuming she cheated. My wife and I were together for around 2 years when we had a fight and broke up. We were broken up for 3 months, during which we both slept with other people, and then we got back together. After approximate 2 months of being back together, my wife found out she was pregnant. We knew there was a possibility of one other man being the biological father, and it was a toss-up between me and him, but it was more likely to be mine. My wife was honest with me that she'd slept with other people when we got back together, and I was equally honest, and the window of conception for our daughter was just large enough we couldn't say for sure if she was conceived when we were together or apart, and while she offered to get our daughter tested, I didn't want to know. My entire family were aware we broke up and got back together. Visibly, she looks like her mother. Same dark hair, same dimples, same bone structure, and I see bits of myself in her too, mainly in her mannerisms, with the only part that doesn't match up being her eyes, which are brown, while mine are green and my wife's are blue. Meanwhile my son, with his green eyes, blonde hair, and bone structure, looks like I cloned myself, and looks very different to his dark-haired, dark-eyed sister. My mother has noticed, and remarks on it often. This really gets my wife's hackles up, both because of the reality behind that, which my mother is unaware of, and because she and my mother have clashed a few times in the past. They are very different people, and their personalities just don't mix. Then a few months ago my wife's sister and my best friend, they're married, got into a car accident. They were in the hospital with one of their 3 kids, while the other 2 were home alone, so we asked my mother to watch our kids while we helped them out. Our kids were with her and my dad for about 5 hours. Last week mum came over and said she had something important to tell me. When she had my daughter unsupervised, she did one of those DNA test kits on my daughter, comparing it to her own DNA, which she apparently ordered months ago for this exact purpose, and was waiting to use it, and it confirmed my daughter isn't biologically related to me, and she began to tell me about a lawyer she could get me in touch with to begin divorce proceedings. I told her this changes nothing. She's still my daughter and that's my wife she's talking about. Mum was shocked and called my wife some names I don't care to repeat. I told her to get out of my house. It's been nearly a week. I've told my wife, blocked my mother on everything, and there's been constant calls and texts. My mother is furious I never told her that I had an inkling and has since disowned my daughter, but says my son is still her special little guy, so she wants a relationship with my son, but not my daughter. In addition to my mother, all 5 of my siblings, 3 sisters, 2 brothers, and dad are angry with me. They want me to get back in touch, and a couple of them have even said I should thank mum for what she did as she was looking out for me, and now I know. However, I can't justify my mother going behind my back to get a DNA test on my daughter without consulting me. I feel I'm in the right, but I also feel I could be overreacting, and I would appreciate another perspective as I'm seriously considering cutting contact with my mother over this. AITA? NTA. This was your choice, and had nothing to do with your mother. She did this solely to hurt your wife. If you allow your mother to have a relationship with your son while not having one with your daughter, you'd be a terrible father. Blood doesn't make a father. I kind of feel like it might have been okay if he was under the delusion that the child was his, but he knew about the possibility she wasn't his, didn't care, and didn't want a definitive answer either way. Who the hell is his mother to take that decision away from him, or worse yet, disown his daughter because of it? Definitely NTA. I agree, she did not do this thinking of you. If she had your well-being in mind, she wouldn't have meddled and would have made an honest effort to become close with your wife. She wouldn't disown. WTF BTW. Is this the 1800s? Disown. SMH. This small child who you love, who is your daughter regardless of DNA. This girl, who is her special little guy's sister, this girl who calls you daddy and look to you to protect her. All she wanted was evidence to justify why she dislikes your wife. As for the rest of your family, they may be in the fog or are genuinely stuck between a rock and a hard place. To them, your wife cheated and your mom caught her. That's all they know. Do not let them off the hook, but do ask them to back off and please not take sides. Good for you for sticking up for your wife and family. NTA at all. NTA. Your mom overstepped so much, there just aren't words. Also a side note, I know you don't care about your daughter's paternity, but if your mom ordered a mitochondrial DNA test, used to be a little bit cheaper, and is sometimes an option for grandparent testing, your daughter would show as unrelated, even if she was related, because it compares DNA that is passed on from mother to daughter. I'm not sure what kind she used. I know it was one of the at-home kits that you send off for analysis, and I'm fairly certain she got it from a website that does family trees, but that's all the detail I have. She did have the results on paper with her, but I didn't look at the logo and gave it back to her when I told her to leave. Pretty sure what she did is illegal. Whatever DNA service she used now has your daughter's DNA forever. It's one thing to make that choice as an adult, but she took away your and her choice and that forever. That is a massive privacy violation. Most of those companies sell their data to third parties, and in no way did you or your daughter have informed consent on that. NTA blood isn't family. You have accepted her and treated her as your own. Hopefully your parents and siblings will realize this if you cut her out. On a future note, when she get older it would be best if your daughter hears that she is not blood related from you. Your family might continue to be assholes and somehow get to her and drop the ball. What really upsets me here is that your mother took a DNA sample of your child without your knowledge and against your wishes and sent it to a company that will log her DNA in their database for undetermined uses later on. This means people could be using her DNA sequence for just about anything for the rest of time. The only thing they intend to do to maintain her privacy is to give the DNA sequence a number ID and keep her name and address separate. The violation of bodily autonomy that your mother did is frightening. Your 5-year-old child no longer owns her own DNA sequence. NTA. My grandparents didn't like my mother and only my father, my brother and I were welcome. When I was 6 I decided I didn't want to go to a place my mom was not welcome. My grandparents stopped talking to me, only bought presents for my brother, and ignored me in the grocery store. When I was a teenager, and they got sick, I never felt the need to go to the hospital to visit, and I never went to their funeral, even though my family pleaded with me. I felt nothing for such immature and cruel people. Don't let this happen to your daughter. Grandparents and parents should be the bigger persons or at least keep the children safe and loved. NTA. Your mother violated yours, your wife's, and your daughter's privacy. She no longer gets to have any contact with either of your children. Block her and anyone supporting her. Also, consult a family attorney about grandparents' rights in your area. You may to prepare for her to file. Your lawyer could also write a cease and desist letter, telling your parents to leave your family alone. And get some cameras installed on your house. It isn't uncommon for grandparents who behave irrationally to get worse with their behavior. You may need documentation of her actions. NTA. Dude, your family is fucked. Really? Honestly, I don't think there's any way of repairing all of this. They would have to own up to so much bullshit before it being okay again. I'm truly sorry for you and your wife and children. This is no longer about you, or your wife, or your mom. Your family are showing extremely malicious and harmful negativity to a child, your daughter. Please don't allow things to just be smoothed over. The actions you and your wife take now regarding your family will decide your daughter's future well-being. This really stinks. I wish you the best. Everyone else answered the general question, but I have a different question. I understand you considered your daughter yours regardless of the biology, which is fine. That's your choice to make. My question is, what about BO dad? Did he ever get to make a choice? Does he even know he has a daughter? You may not care if it's your BO daughter, but that other person may have had their child basically stolen. NTA. Sorry you have had to go through all this. She is still 100% your daughter. I would cut your mum off, if I were you, permanently. It sucks but you, your wife and your kids are all that really matters. My sister can't have kids, so she did a donor egg and carried the child herself. From your mum's standpoint, that is not my sister's kid. So yeah, she's wrong. Family is what you'll make it. I hope your family can get through this together. How did your wife react to the news about the test? Your mom obviously is tar and overstepped. She was trying to protect you, but she was in the wrong here. AITA, because even though you are going to raise her and be her dad, biologically this is somebody else's kid. By refusing to figure it out, you are depriving that guy of knowing he has a daughter. He could want to have a relationship with her and deserves to have that choice. Also, your daughter will grow up and probably want to know who her biological father is. It's important for family disease history and emotionally she could want to know. By not figuring it out, you were selfishly prioritizing yourself over your child and her biological father. Your mother is an asshole for doing the test sneakily, but even more so for disowning your stepdaughter. You are an asshole for not having the balls to do the test yourself. You're man enough to raise a child that's not your own. Be man enough to be as honest with your child. Your wife is an asshole for being unsure who the father is and not informing all parties involved after having decided to give birth to the child. NTA. It's not your mother's place to perform any test. That is your daughter, and it's a shitty grandmother who will disown a 5-year-old child just because she's not biological. How would your daughter grow up constantly seeing her brother with a grandmother that wants nothing to do with her? Your mother telling her that, since she's not biological, she's not important? That would crush her. She doesn't get to pick and choose. It's both grandchildren or none. You knew the possibility was there. You accepted that. You were happy. It's none of her business. Your mother overstepped her boundaries and is trying to tell you how to live your life. If you had wanted to get divorced, you would have done it without her urging. I would do the same as you. I love my mother, but if she did this, I would cut her out of my life until she can learn to act like a caring, responsible adult.